Heavy metal rock.
Global mind.
We are speaking with legendary drummer Mike Portnoy for the Winery Dogs' new album, 3, that will be coming out on February 3rd. Congratulations and welcome.
Thanks, man. How you doing?
Good. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you, man.
So with this album, you could have named it anything in the world, a song, anything, but you chose to call it 3. What's the logic behind it?
It felt like it was just the natural choice. I mean, obviously, the first thing is it's our 3rd album, so that was where it stemmed from. But really, the fact that we're a trio, 3 dogs, 3 dog night, there was just so many connections to the number 3. It just felt like it was a natural choice. We almost didn't even think of anything else. It all kind of, I don't even remember who suggested it, but it immediately just felt right. I think mainly because we're 3 people, we're a trio that's kind of, been with the band and the sound of the band and it's all about. And I guess the biggest thing is are we going to make it a number 3 or a Roman numeral 3 or spell the word 3? So that was really the only decision that needed to be made was how it was going to be spelt. But the title itself came pretty easily and naturally.
That's pretty cool. And it's being released on the 3rd of February. So
exactly. Yeah. It's a shame that it's not being released on March 3rd. That would have made a lot more sense, but we needed to get it out there and we wanted to hit the road. But 3/3/23 would have been the ideal one.
No, that's awesome. No, it's good fun. Fully understanding that the Winery Dogs song isn't really a Winery Dogs song until you guys all put your magic onto it. But prior to that, are people bringing in demos and ideas for you guys to select what songs would work best as the Winery Dogs palette?
No, the only time that happened was on the first album because we went into the first session not knowing what the chemistry would be like, if it was there or not. So for the first album, Richie had a few demos that he brought in and we based off of that. But the second album and this latest album, we went in with a completely empty, clean slate and just bounced ideas off of each other. And that's the chemistry of this band. The 3 of us work together really naturally. This time around we got into Richie's studio and he's got a jam room which is the size of a small bedroom really. So it's very tight. You're really in very close quarters, very old school, like when you're jamming with your high school garage band. Yes. So yeah, it's just the 3 of us jamming and maybe Billy will have a riff or I'll have a groove or Richie will have an idea or a melody and it's just immediately start coming together. Hey, that's a great verse. Oh, let's modulate up a whole step for the B section and let's go to the let's go to the key of A for the chorus. Just bouncing ideas, just throwing things at each other. Richie will start maybe hearing some vocal melodies that he'll start scatting on top. And it happens very, very quick. And, we would sometimes get 1 or 2 or sometimes even 3 blueprints a day, and this time around we recorded the basic tracks, very specifically the drums, sometimes within hours of having put together the music.
That's awesome. And that leads perfectly into my next question, where after listening to the album throughout the Christmas break, you guys come across as like a really tight ensemble that you kind of hear in a smoky bar where you guys are just improvising and it all seems effortless and it all seems so smooth and everything works from, the song itself to the lead breaks where you guys really break it down. Is that the case, or do you go back and lament on this further and say, we have to fix this, we have to adjust that, we have to do this, we have to do that? Or is it very spontaneous and organic?
Well, thank you. Well, the blueprint, the body, the foundation of the song is incredibly quick.
Yeah.
And like I just said, there were cases where I'd be tracking my drums sometimes within hours of finishing the song's arrangement. So me personally, I love to get in there and track without overthinking it. I don't like overthinking things too much. I
Right.
like committing to something and moving forward and going on to the next thing. So in my case, the drums are very spontaneous, very in the moment, not overthinking things.
Mm.
So that process is very quick, but then uh don't get me wrong, it's not like we banged out this whole album in an hour. The stuff that goes on top of the foundation sometimes takes many months to ferment. And most specifically Richie's vocal melodies and the lyrics, he spends a lot of time on that. So the foundation is very quick, but all of the other stuff that goes into songwriting sometimes takes a while.
The one thing I get with the Winery Dogs too, and this is my personal opinion, is you're the engine room for this band, and you're leading the band almost with your groove that you're coming up with, and the songs are really formed around that particular groove because there's so many different styles of playing on this album. Is that the case?
I actually, I don't know if I see it that way, because I think Richie is the foundation. Richie is the anchor. I kind of see the musicality and the chemistry of this band similar to the Who. Like there's times when me and Billy are just like running circles around the songs. If you listen to the drums and bass, especially live, if you come see us live,
Yeah, yeah.
the way Billy and I play, it's very similar to the way like Keith Moon and John Entwistle used to play, where they're just all over the place and the vocals and the guitar are the anchor. And I kind of see a similarity with us to that kind of style. Like I think Richie is holding the song down with the vocals and his guitar, whereas me and Billy are the kind of acrobatic players to just be playing circles
Right.
around the song. So it's almost a very different kind of a very different kind of anchor than you would expect with a lot of bands. Yeah, you would
Yeah.
normally think the drums and the bass are the anchor, but I think it's quite the opposite with this
Yeah.
band.
Because I've been listening a lot. Two of my favorite songs was Rise and Stars. All right. And they were very, very I thought very drum driven. And then when you went into the lead breaks, you really went off with Billy. Like you said, you're running the circles around it. So I kind of thought you guys were the anchor for that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all the way you perceive it. I probably have a different perception being the one that's doing it. But yeah, I mean, of course the drums always have to be the anchor. And these songs are absolutely held down by a groove. I mean, that's the most important anchor with the songs. And if you look at any of my other bands, some of my more prog or metal oriented things, yeah, the drums can be often very, very busy and doing a lot of things. But with the Winery Dogs, the focus is always the songs and the vocals and the melodies. So no matter how much acrobatics you might be getting with the instruments, that we sprinkle all of our personalities into our instruments. At the end of the day, we're all playing for the song. My drums in the Winery Dogs, it is about that groove. It's just that I'm not a traditional kind of groove guy where I'm just going to play one thing throughout the whole song. There's going to be these sprinkles of personality throughout the groove itself.
That's a great perspective too, because when you're playing with whether it was in Dream Theater in the past, John Petrucci, Sons of Apollo, and now this hard rock quartet, or excuse me, hard rock trio, do you change your mindset? Do you change your
Oh,
style for that?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Every one of the bands I play with call for a different type of personality. I mean, you could look at Billy and I, being the rhythm section in two different bands between the Winery Dogs and Sons of Apollo, and we both play very differently in the Winery Dogs than we do in Sons of Apollo. Sons of Apollo is very precise, very precision. It's more prog. It's a little more metal. So Billy and I, our styles in Sons of Apollo is very precision and hard and heavy. And whereas with the Winery Dogs, it's more loosey goosey. It's more when you're a power trio, and you know, in the style of the Winery Dogs is more based in like classic rock. It's
Yeah.
not really prog, it's not really metal.
Nope.
It's more a classic rock trio, you know, sounding like something out of the 60s or 70s. So Billy and I have to approach the way we play completely different in this band. And, you know, even down to the drum kit for me, you know, with the Winery Dogs, you know, I play a very stripped down small kit because it's a very old school band, old school style band. You want it to kind of feel like Cream or Jimi Hendrix Experience or Grand Funk, you know, even Zeppelin. Zeppelin was a quartet, but musically they were a power trio. It was just
Yeah.
drums, guitar, and bass, you know, musically. So yeah, it's a very different mindset. You know, when I do stuff with, you know, when I did stuff with Dream Theater or when I do stuff with Sons of Apollo or Neil Morse, you know, it's proggy, it's epic, it's overblown, it's 30-minute songs. Whereas Winery Dogs is a very, very different mindset. It's all about more concise, you know, 5-minute catchy song, you know.
Yeah. Yep. What would you say the common thread is that's running through all of these bands and all these different type of musics that you work on? What's of your drumming, that is?
Well, I mean, I am who I am. I have my own style and I could kind of change it from band to band depending on what's required and wearing all these different hats. You know, I could play with Twisted Sister doing that. I could play with Avenged Sevenfold doing that, or Metal Allegiance, which is full on thrash. You know, these are all sides of me. So the common thread would be me and my love for music and drumming. But my taste, my musical taste is incredibly broad. It goes from
Yeah.
everything from Jellyfish to Slayer. So I bring that music knowledge and music love, the love for music to everything I do. And, you know, whether I have to be doing something very proggy and I could tap into my Yes and King Crimson style, or if I'm playing with Metal Allegiance and I have to tap into Exodus and you know, Overkill type you know, influence. It's the common denominator for me is just a love of music. And like when I get together with the Winery Dogs, it's like, cool, I get to put on that hat and play this style.
And I've seen you play with Dream Theater, played Sons of Apollo a bunch of times, and Winery Dogs. And you're such a visual player too. You're really watching you is fun to watch. I'm not even a drummer. I play guitar, but watching you play is really a lot of fun to watch. And you're very animated, regardless of how complicated the music is or how driving the music is. So kudos to you for that.
Well, thank you. I mean, that's just my love for you know, those type of drummers. You know, even though I have so much admiration for somebody like Neil Peart, who's one of my biggest heroes of all time. He was a very precise, precision player, but at the same time, I have a tremendous love for like Keith Moon or Lars Ulrich. You know, Lars and Keith are kind of known for being a little bit more quote unquote like sloppy, a little bit more. They're not as precision as somebody like Neil Peart or Bill Bruford would be. But I have just as much love and respect for guys like Lars and Keith Moon because they're so animated and they're so fun to watch. You know, the first time I saw Keith playing in the movie The Kids Are All Right, I couldn't take my eyes off of him. It was he was just so exciting to watch and so much fun to watch that I knew I wanted to be a drummer like that, you know, somebody that was not only, you know, a good player, but somebody that actually was entertaining as well.
Yeah. I photographed John Petrucci in Red Bank a couple of months back when you played there. And I was photographing, and then I have to pick some for the review. And I was like, well, this one is cool, Mike. No, this one's cool. This one's cool. So there's only so many pictures I could choose, and they were all just very, you know, you were like this, you were like this. It was all great, you know, and it was fun to capture it and look at you while you were doing it. So
Thank you. You know, Billy's that kind of player too. When I
course.
first saw Billy, I was a fan of his from the Tallis days, even before the David Lee Roth gig. So, you know, and the first couple times I saw Tallis, I couldn't take my eyes off him. He was like doing all these crazy acrobatics on the bass, you know, like Hendrix. It was like Hendrix on the bass. So he brings that to the band as well. So yeah, I think it's, you know, I think when you see the Winery Dogs, it's like a 3-ring circus. You know, no matter who you're watching or no matter who you're listening to, you're going to be entertained.
Oh yeah, that's very, very true. You know, we talked about so many of the bands that you're in. Being involved in so many bands all at the same time, does it get dizzying after a while? Do you need like a coordinator to plan this for you? I have to wonder because I'm having trouble keeping track of where you are and when I want to go see you.
I'm a very OCD person, so that kind of helps. I'm very, very, very organized. So, I have my phone handy. I have my calendar on my phone. I keep my lists. I keep my calendar, and I'm in control of my schedule. I don't have a manager or an assistant or anything like that. So, but yeah, that is the hardest part of juggling, 7 or 8 different bands. Everybody thinks it's the music, but for me, the music is really easy to remember. And, once it's in there, it's in my brain forever. It's the organization of the schedule, which is the most difficult, but it works for me because I'm a very organized OCD kind of person.
I just saw you posted on something on Twitter today. Here's all of the releases and where I'll be and the performances in one single spot. So it's got to help.
I mean, because I know it is hard for my followers as well. They can't keep track of, who am I playing with this week? Am I in the studio with Flying Colors, or am I on tour with the Winery Dogs? I know it's hard for them. So I mean, I can imagine it's got to be, that's why I try to have a schedule where people can just click on one spot to see it all.
Is it fun managing all that and being a part of everything versus just 1 or 2 key bands and going out when you have time?
Well, I did one band for 25 years. I mean, I was still doing other things while I was in Dream Theater, but I was very focused 25 years with a single band. So there's something to be said for both. I have enjoyed spreading my wings musically. Mainly that's been my thing the last dozen years, is just trying to play with as many different people as I can, as many different styles as I can, because I'm such a music lover. Like I just said, I never wanted to do just one thing with one band my whole career. So I have enjoyed these last, 12 or 13 years really spreading out, but it can be exhausting. It really can be, going from album to album, to tour, band to band. It is tiring, but it's fulfilling as well, musically, musically fulfilling.
You spark a thought in me. After this album is released and it's done, it's written, it's recorded, it's out in the world, and you have to go and relearn everything again that's on this album and rehearse for the tour. Are fans expecting you to get everything note for note, beat for beat? Are they expecting that from you when they go to any of your shows, regardless if it's the Winery Dogs or not?
If they are, they're not going to get it, because I'm not that type of drummer. When I play and when I write and record in the studio, it's on the cuff. I'll have my patterns. I'll have my grooves and patterns that I plan on doing for the verse and for the chorus and for the bridge and for the solo. That comes together when we're writing the song, but the transitions and the fills are always completely spontaneous. And, I'll track one song, maybe I'll do 3 different takes or whatever, and each of the 3 takes will be completely different. And then maybe I'll put together a comp, and that's what it is. But it's never, I'm not like a Neil Peart type of drummer where every fill is written out and the same each time. I respect that he can do that, but that's just not my style. So yeah, in the studio, it's completely spontaneous, and live, it's the same. There might be key fills or whatever that you latch on to and oh wow, I like that, so
you got to do it.
I'll stick with that one. But a lot of times when I look to the audience, I see air drummers trying to air drum my fills. A lot of times, I'm either looking to them to see what the fill is, or I'm fucking with them and saying, no, you're not getting that one. Here's something else,
Oh shit, that's so funny.
And Billy is a similar type of player, which makes it really interesting as a rhythm section, that the two of us are always flying off the seat of our pants, and you never know what's going to happen from moment to moment. And Billy and I have a crazy synergy. Like, it's almost like ESP. Like, there's been so many times live where we'll just both improvise a fill and it's like the same pattern, the same rhythm. And that's just how like locked musically we are. And we'll come out with these fills spontaneously and look at each other like, oh shit, wow, that was incredible. And it's fun. I like playing like that. But the only thing that makes it difficult is when we do these music videos. where I'm like supposed to match the fills that are on the album. And a lot of times you'll see a new, we just put out a new music video today,
Right.
and if you watch
That
the
girl.
fills, they're not always there. It's just because I'm like, oh fuck, I forgot that one. Oh, that's what I did. I didn't remember. I don't know.
Well, I said that early on. I said, you guys make it seem so effortless and seamless, and to the audience and, a listener, that, everything is planned out and well thought out, but it is really a
No,
lot of
it's
telepathy going on there, I guess, right?
yeah, yeah. I play by feel. Everyone thinks I'm a very technical drummer because I spent 25 years doing this incredibly progressive technical music with Dream Theater
Yeah.
and LTE and some of the other proggy things I do. But the reality is I'm not a very technical drummer. I really do things by feel. I've always been a very feel oriented drummer. I just have the knowledge. I know how to play odd time signatures and write 30-minute songs with really extravagant arrangements. But that doesn't mean my drumming itself is very technical. I mean, I could play these technical patterns, but I'm still doing them by feel. The feel is always the most important thing to me.
Well, that's what you're famously known for. I mean, anybody you talk to, it's Neil Peart and you. It's like those two always come up as like the best drummers ever. So, you've managed to secure that spot in most people's minds.
But I think it's the other elements too, the human elements that are so important to me. Like I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
I would take the technicality of Bill Bruford and Neil Peart, but mix it with Vinnie Paul, with the groove or the adrenaline of like Vinnie Paul and Lars Ulrich. So I think it's important to have both. Any too much of one or the other, I think is I like to have that balance with my style.
I would agree. I think you do a great job of it. And also that really makes me think too that the Winery Dogs would not be the Winery Dogs without the three of you. It didn't work. Richie, you, or Billy, gone. It's not going to work. It's not going to have that same magic. I saw Chickenfoot first time with Chad Smith, and then I saw Chickenfoot the second time without Chad, and it didn't have that fun and that energy and that joking and the laughing and the enjoyment. And I don't think the Winery Dogs would ever work with anybody else but the three of you guys.
No, you're absolutely right. And especially with a trio. I mean, if you have a band of 4 or 5 people, maybe you could sub somebody out if somebody's sick or somebody can't do a tour or whatever. But when you're down to only 3 people, those are usually 3 distinctive personalities. You look at Rush, look at ZZ Top, look at the Police, look at King's X. I mean, these power trios, Cream, it is, you have to have those 3 personalities to make up that sound and style. And it's the same with the Winery Dogs. I don't think we could ever sub out any of us for a show or for a tour. It's either, it has to be Mike, Billy, and Richie, or it can't be the Winery Dogs.
I would agree with you. I feel that wholeheartedly, and I agree. And I'm glad you have that same idea too. Part of the packaging that I got for the release was, I guess, photos of the inside of the CD, and it cracked me up that Eddie Trunk. Everybody thanks all of the people that, and all of the drums and albums and everything else, the people that they love and like, and Eddie Trunk has Eddie Trunk. It was so funny.
It's actually, we didn't invent that. We actually ripped that off. I think Aerosmith, I think that was John Kalodner's old credit, like in the 80s. And whoever worked with John Kalodner, that was his credit. He wasn't like A&R John Kalodner, or it was always John Kalodner is John Kalodner. So we kind of we stole that gag and used it for Eddie Trunk's credit on this album.
That cracked me up. Did he know about it?
I think we did it on the first album as well. I could be wrong, but I think we may have credited him to that before. But he's, he'll be the first to tell you, he gets a lot of credit for putting this band together, to be honest, because he was the one that suggested to Billy and I to get together with Richie, and it was a brilliant suggestion. And obviously, we wouldn't be who we are if it wasn't the 3 of us. And Richie brings so much, obviously. His voice, is playing, and his writing. So Eddie was the one that kind of mastermind, this chemistry. So he gets a lot of credit for that.
Did you guys, when you first got together, said, you know what, there's this gap in blues rock, and it's really missing hard rock, the power trio? Was that the mindset going into this, or you were just
It
like, hey, let's see if this works?
it just came naturally. I mean, for me, I had to go in with that mindset because I came from the prog and the metal world. But
Yeah,
I think Richie and Billy already were kind of in this vein with what they did. Richie just brings that kind of R&B, kind of funk,
yeah,
old school jamming trio. He was already kind of in that realm. And Billy, what he did with Talus or with Niacin, or he already kind of had this style as a big part of him. So really, it was probably me that had to do the most adapting. But because I'm such a fan of this style of music and my love for classic rock,
yeah.
I really wanted to do something in this vein because I didn't have it yet in my repertoire. But it wasn't a conscious thing. We didn't say, hey, let's try to be like Cream meets Grand Funk meets modern day Soundgarden grunge. It wasn't a discussion. We just started jamming, and this style is what naturally just fell out of us.
And you guys had the chemistry, so that worked.
Yeah.
Have you ever put together or tried to put together a band with your friends or people that are excellent musicians and there's just no chemistry? It just doesn't work?
Um,
You don't have to give names or anything like that, but
I mean, I guess I've been fortunate that everything I've put together or been part of has worked. So yeah, I personally I haven't had much experience with things not working. I've been very lucky that the people I've picked or gotten together with have
yeah,
gelled. I mean, I guess the one thing that didn't work out was the thing that Billy and I were trying to do before the Winery Dogs, which was something we were trying to work with John Sykes. I wouldn't, and that just never went anywhere because John just didn't have the I guess the motivation or the work ethic that Billy and I did to move forward and make it work. So I mean, I guess that's an example of something that we tried to make work and it didn't
yeah.
happen. And then from the frustration of that not going anywhere is where Billy and I decided we wanted to still do something. And then that's when Eddie suggested Richie, and that's how the Winery Dogs were born.
I didn't know
So,
that. Okay.
I mean, I guess that's one example of trying to make something happen and it didn't, but that really wasn't a musical thing. It was more just a motivational or work ethic
Yeah, I get it.
clash,
Okay.
Yeah.
Being such a fabulous drummer, have you ever auditioned for a band and didn't get the job?
I've never auditioned for a band. I've never
Really?
gone through that experience.
Not even as a
No,
kid?
no. I mean, I had my high school bands that I put together with my high school friends, and I went off to college at Berkeley, and I met John Petrucci and John Mayung, and we formed Dream Theater within weeks of
Mm.
of meeting at Berkeley. And then that was 25 years. So I really didn't have to audition for any other bands from there because when I left Dream Theater and wanted to do other things, either it was something I put together and initiated, or something I was called to do. Or I've done a lot of hired gun gigs, with like
Yeah.
Avenged Sevenfold or Twisted Sister or Stone Sour or Fate's Warning. But in all those cases, they just picked up the phone and called me and asked me if I was available to help. So I've never auditioned for anything in my life.
Well, fortunately for you, you never had to audition. It's always
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah, that would be scary. I don't know. I don't know if I don't know how I'd handle that. I don't know if I would like that.
Well, that's great. And I'm looking forward to the tour. You guys have a tour booked for most of February, if not longer. And I think you're playing New York and New Jersey. I'm going to come out and see you guys and photograph the show either at the Starland Ballroom or at Sony Music Hall. So
Yeah,
I'll be there.
I mean, it's going to be a busy year. We start in February, and the first U.S. run is almost 2 months within itself, and it's not even covering the entire country. I think we have shows, and just you bring up New York and New Jersey, but I think we have Long Island, we have Manhattan. I think we have a few in Jersey. Like
Pennsylvania, we've
it's a
got a bunch of
very it's a very thorough tour. And then we go down to South America, and then we come back and do another leg in America for the West Coast in May, which hasn't been announced yet. Then back over to Europe and South America. It's a very, very busy schedule, and only a portion of which has been announced so far. So there's more dates coming very, very soon.
Well,
The
I
rest of
look
the
for,
area.
I can't wait to see you. Last time I saw you, I think was Sony Hall 2018, and I really enjoyed the show. Had
Thank you.
tremendous lighting. It was fantastic.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we can't wait to play live. I mean, at the end of the day, that's, I think, this band's strength is playing live and the jamming, and it's that kind of jamming and improv element is a big part of what this band is about. So yeah, we can't wait to get back on the road.
And thank you for always sharing all my pictures. I post them and you guys retweet them and share them with even your wife's band Mean Streak. So all of that. So I always appreciate you doing that. It's very kind
Awesome.
to you. It means a lot to me. So thank you.
Thank you, man.
I want to be respectful to your time. So have a great tour, and the album kicks ass. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for a fantastic interview. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thank you, man. All right. I'll see you soon. Thank you, man.
Heavy metal rock.
Global mind.